They called her the witch baby. But prison couldn't break her. At 1:07 a.m., cell block D was silent. The kind of silence that doesn't mean peace. It meant something was about to happen. 17-year-old Alina sat on the lower bunk, knees tucked to her chest, staring at the concrete wall like she could see through it. They called her the witch baby, not because she practiced anything dark, but because she survived things no one else did. 3 weeks earlier, she had arrived at Blackridge Women's Correctional Facility. The youngest inmate on the tier, small frame, quiet voice, eyes that never blinked when someone threatened her. In prison, that was dangerous. At 1:07 a.m., footsteps stopped outside her cell. Metal scraped against metal. Someone whispered, "Tonight." Alina didn't move. She just listened. And when the lock clicked, everything changed. If you're into real prison stories that most people are afraid to tell, subscribe now, because this one only gets darker. At 6:30 a.m., the light snapped on. Alina hadn't slept. The nickname started on her second day. An older inmate named Merrill had leaned over the lunch table and said, "She looks like she crawled out of the river." The rumor spread fast. Some said she drowned someone. Some said she couldn't drown herself. None of it was true. Alina was in prison for a crime tied to her family, a case that made headlines but left out the parts that mattered. The media painted her cold, manipulative, strange. Inside Blackridge, that image stuck. She didn't cry during intake. She didn't beg for protection. She didn't react when someone knocked her tray onto the floor. That was her mistake. Because in prison, not reacting makes people nervous. And nervous people test you. At 12:15 p.m. in the cafeteria, the first test came. Merrill slid onto the bench across from her. No smile, no blinking. "Why don't you scare easy?" she asked. Alina kept eating. That was mistake number 2. The tray disappeared from her hands. Laughter echoed. Someone behind her muttered, "Let's see if she floats." The phrase stuck. It wasn't about water. It meant something else here. It meant isolation. At 8:40 p.m., the tier doors closed. The guards were short-staffed that night. Cameras had blind spots. Merrill's crew gathered near the showers, where echoes swallowed sound. Alina was told to walk. She walked. No shaking. No begging. Just that same stare. One of them whispered, "Why aren't you scared?" Alina finally spoke. Because fear is loud, and loud people don't last. The corridor went quiet. For the first time, Merrill hesitated. At 2:12 a.m., someone flooded Alina's cell. Water crept across the floor, soaking her blanket. It was a message. They wanted her angry. They wanted her loud. Instead, she stood barefoot in the cold water and waited for morning count. No yelling. No banging. By sunrise, the story had flipped. They tried to drown the witch baby, someone whispered. But she didn't break. That rumor spread faster than the first. At 11 a.m., a guard named Officer Reyes stopped outside her cell. "You're not like the others," he said quietly. Alina didn't answer. He had seen the reports. Solitary confinement in juvenile detention. No incidents. No emotional outbursts. That wasn't normal for someone her age. "Who taught you to survive like this?" he asked. She looked at him. "My mother." And that was the first time anyone saw something shift in her expression. Not fear. Memory. At 4:45 p.m., Merrill tried again. This time, words. "You think silence makes you powerful?" Alina leaned closer. "No, it makes people tell on themselves." And they did. Within days, 2 inmates were written up for threats caught on a microphone they didn't know was live. Merrill lost privileges. And just like that, the power shifted. At 9:30 p.m., the lights flickered. A fight broke out 2 cells down. Chaos. Screaming. Running boots. But it wasn't random. It was a distraction. When guards rushed the noise, someone tried to drag Alina from her cell. They didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect precision. It lasted less than 10 seconds. But when it was over, the attacker was on the ground. Alina stood still, breathing steady, watching. The tier went silent again. And this time, they weren't whispering, which as an insult. Before we go further, if you were in that cell at 9:30 p.m., would you fight or would you stay silent and survive? Comment below. At 1 a.m., word spread. She's trained. She's dangerous. She doesn't feel. None of that was true, but perception in prison is protection. Alina didn't correct them, because fear, when controlled, is armor. At 7:15 a.m., Merrill requested a transfer, not because she lost a fight, but because she lost influence. The nickname changed tone. Now it meant untouchable. At 3:20 p.m., Alina finally received mail. Her mother's handwriting. 3 words underlined. Stay above water. That's when it made sense. Not drowning wasn't luck. It was discipline. Emotion held underwater. Breath controlled. Reaction delayed. At 10:50 p.m., a new inmate arrived. Crying. Shaking. Young. The tier watched to see what Alina would do. She walked over, sat beside her, and said, "Don't react. They feed on it." For the first time, she wasn't surviving. She was leading. At 6 a.m., Officer Reyes made a note in her file. Inmate influence stabilizing unit. In prison language, that meant power without chaos. At 11:59 p.m., someone whispered again. They tried to drown her. Another voice replied, "No, they tried to test her." And they failed. At 12:01 a.m., Alina lay awake, not because she feared prison, but because she knew something else was coming. Transfers, court appeals, enemies outside these walls. The story of how she ended up here, and what really happened before Blackridge, is something no one inside this prison fully knows. And when that truth surfaces, it will change everything. If you want the full breakdown of her case, and what the court records don't say, subscribe now and turn on notifications. And if you made it this far, comment above water. The full story drops soon.